Okay, I'm going to show you guys how to install the 46% lockout. I guess one thing that's pretty simple is the number on the tag. So 46% lockout means that this lockout is going to replace the overdrive gear from the 6% and permanently lock you into 46% overdrive and then give you a lockout. So the 6% would remove the 46% overdrive gear and provide you with a permanent 6% overdrive to the front tires, or front shaft I should say, because in a rear buggy situation we would flip the trans with a 6%, and now your front output would be your rear drive shaft, so you would be overdriving the rear tire 6%, and you would need to underdrive the rear to make it equal, or overdrive the front and underdrive the rear to get overdrive to the front. The 46% lockout gives you all a permanent 46% overdrive to the front tires, front shaft. So I would only recommend that for forward facing buggies, forward engine based buggies. It's a lot harder to tune the overdrive out of the front shaft than it is to put it back into it via portal gears, because you cannot reduce the portal gears. You can upgrade the portal, you can only go up in the portal gears, but in diff gears you only get about 8%, so you could only get about 16% reduction from the 46%. But with the 6% you're allowed to go like 22 to 32% with this, with the 6%, if that makes any sense. So you're allowed to go up with the 6%, but the 46% you can only go down so much. So that's why I recommend the 6% over the 46% now. But the 46% is maximum overdrive, and then you don't have to buy additional gears, if that makes any sense. But quickly we'll show you how to install the 46% lockout. So you want to remove all of the screws from the top cover for the shift linkages. You want to remove all 3 screws from the transmission housing. The shift lever linkages will need to be removed by taking this brass bushing out. And then tap the case, push on the rear drive shaft. Sometimes the bearing will get stuck on the drive shaft because of the output pin will get a little wallowed, so the bearing won't like to slide through. But this is what a transmission should look like assembled and inside the back half. So basically we're going to remove the front gear stack. This one has the machine gear set. This is basically the same thing for the centered gears as well. The only benefit to the machine gear set is this is a one-piece shaft. The centered gears uses a little spacer here. You can delete the gears. I would just leave them in there personally on the idler. It doesn't hurt anything. The parts are modeled to where these can stay in place and have no interference. So this is our 46% drive gear, and this is our 6% drive gear. So we are going to need to remove the larger gear on the front output shaft. Okay, now that we have the larger gear removed, which would be the 6% gear, we are going to take the bearings out of it. We are going to open our package. We're going to take the bearings from this 6% drive gear and insert the bearings for on the 46% lockout. Then we are going to remove this screw here holding this bearing retainer spacer in, because this 46% lockout will now replace this little piece. So we'll remove this completely and install the 46% lockout. This thing kind of snaps into place. Oh, I forgot. This uh-oh. Oh, we lost her. Man down. This drive gear, I would always recommend using these little spacers on the bearing retainers to space the gear set slightly off of the retainer. Because what happens is if you look on this, you can see kind of right here, the little shiny bit on the aluminum retainer. That's where the gear has been rubbing against said retainer. So these little shims will help keep the gear off of the face of the retainer. You don't want all that inside here. But now that we are not needing, we don't have a gear there anymore, we can remove this shim. Maybe. Now we'll insert the 46% gear onto this little nubbin right here. The retainer should kind of key into that little hole right there. And then we will take our screw and insert it back in to secure. This helps keep the part from rotating, and it also locks in the bearing retainer. So we tighten that down to where it's just to where I like to tighten this bad boy down to where it's snug, and then I'll back it off like a full turn. That's a little pro tip there on this bad boy. Now we will take our shaft, make sure the hole is pointing down. Ugh. Insert our cog deal. Put the small gear back on top. Take our transmission case cover. Wiggle it back on. Come on, baby. Line it up. There we go. Then we will install all of our screws. I'm just going to install the shift levers really quickly. Okay. Shift levers are installed. I'm going to try to spin the output shaft. So you should have like this. Ooh. Like this, we should have drive to both shafts. And then if I push this lever forward, it stops the front shaft from spinning, but the back shaft is still spinning. If I engage it, the front shaft and the back shaft spin. If I push this lever, the back shaft stops, but the front shafts keep spinning. Push it back. Both of them are still spinning. Front shaft is stopped. And there we go. That's pretty much it. The only tools you'll need is a 2.0, 2.5, a 1.5, and some grease, and possibly a rag. And that's pretty much how simple it is to install these parts. Direct drop-in replacements. If you guys have any comments, questions, or concerns, hit me up. Let me know. I'm curious to see what you guys are using these parts for, what you're putting them in. It's kind of cool. I was like never really a fan of dig until I was able to do dual dig, and the options are endless now that you're able to disconnect each shaft. But anyway, thank you guys for watching. Anyway, peace.